Are you like me and it's past time to get rid of that pesky 7-way plug that's showing connected, disconnected, connected, disconnected, and on, make you want to pull your hair out? Well, it's time on this one, so stay tuned and let's cut this off and we'll show you the easy way to change it. So today we're going to be talking about changing our 7-way plug out on a cattle trailer, and this would include cattle trailers, utility trailers, cargos, but not RVs. RV is going to have a different wiring code. So if you need one for RVs, I think we may have a video for that. If we do, we'll leave it in the link in the description below. But today we are going to replace this. It is a molded plug, it's oxidized, it's just not connecting good, so we're going to cut it off. The first thing I'm going to recommend when you go to cut it off, it's easy, just get you a pair of cutters and cut it all the way off. But if it does have a breakaway system on it with a battery and it back feeds through the plug, you could short out some wiring. So I'm going to recommend that you trim it back a little bit and don't cut through all the wires at once, because it may get a little sparky. Be careful not to cut too much off or your leg. So I will tell you, depending on who wired this before, or if it's got a molded sealed plug like this, just because the colors look familiar doesn't mean that they are the right color code. So we're going to cut these off and we're going to test it. If you are feeling frisky and want a little spark in your life, then go ahead and cut them all together. But I'm going to recommend cutting them one by one. So now you have an option. If you can make this make contact, you can make sure these wires are spread out, since you can see the color on them. That's why I don't like to cut it right up against it. You could plug this into your tow vehicle, ground out a test light to the frame, the bumper somewhere where it's got a good ground. Then you could test each wire individually while turning on that function in the truck, whether it be left turn, right turn, brake, running lights, and so on. And you can see which wire goes to what, and that's going to help you when you wire the new plug onto here. So if you can identify those wires at this point, then you don't need to do the next method. But if for some reason maybe you've drugged this off, I know we're all guilty of that, and you really can't see the wires, then you're going to need to be able to figure out which wires go to what. So that's what we're going to do next. There's a couple different ways you can do it. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to get some of the insulation off and try to cut just the insulation only. This insulation is a little old, and that's something you have to determine too. If the outer insulation is brittle and tough, you may want to change the whole cord, going back to a junction box or just on the neck, wherever it might be. Just take your time so you don't cut through any of the wiring or cut your leg like I did. Trim a little more off. So one thing that's handy to have, I recommend buying something like this. You can buy them in multi-wire setups. I have a large and a small. This is just a jumper wire with some alligator clips. It's a good way to find shorts. It's a good way to power up lights. It's a pretty inexpensive way to diagnose. We're going to use a little 12-volt battery today. You can always use a battery charger. Just put it, on a small amperage, maybe 10, 20 amps on a 12-volt battery charger. Now, if you have a smart charger, one of the newer ones, a lot of those will not work for this application. It will not put out any power unless it actually senses a battery and that you're connected correctly. So if you have an old battery charger, those will work great, or just a 12-volt battery, pretty inexpensive. If your 12-volt battery in your trailer on the breakaway is hot, you can remove it and utilize it. So to be safe for the video, we're going to put an inline fuse on the hot wire. If you say, man, I ain't gonna do that, then hey, don't do that. I don't care. But I'm gonna do it. It'll save you from burning something up. Most of these are magnetic. That's pretty handy. You can put it there. This one is 10 foot. Then we're going to ground out. Make sure our connections aren't touching on one another. And then we're going to hook up to the opposite side of the fusible link here. It's got a little 10 amp fuse. Now you can hook this up to a wire. You can strip it back a little bit. We'll start with the running lights. And now you have to have a ground. If you don't understand the importance of a ground, watch our last video. We talk a lot about the importance of a ground and the ins and outs of that. So we're gonna take this opposite end and we're gonna hook it somewhere. This has a nice shiny bolt there, so we're gonna try that. And we're gonna see if we have any running lights. I'm gonna say there's a 50% chance we do. I don't see nothing. So let's check the old green wire and see what it does. This may be wired color-coded for an RV. That's what I'm saying. You can't just go off the colors. You're going to have to diagnose it, figure out what goes to what. So, as you can see there, that green wire lights up the running light. I don't know if you can see that in the camera. So you can clearly see our running lights are on. So our green wire on this is running lights. So I'm gonna guess that this molded 7-way setup is color-coded like an RV wiring code. And there's nothing wrong with that. It will work just fine, but you're gonna need to note that. It would make it easier when you go to hook it up to your new 7-way plug, because the labeling on the back of the 7-way is likely going to match color for color on here. If this were wired like a true utility trailer wiring, those colors are not gonna match. So don't just assume when you open the back of that plug up on a 7-way and you have those colors in your cord, that they're gonna be a direct fit. Always check them out. We see that mistake a lot. Everybody will just hook it up really quick and it doesn't work. They'll start popping fuses and stuff like that. So the next thing we're gonna check is the red wire, and we'll see what the red wire brings up. We'll see if it goes to left turn. And I'm using my handy dandy strippers. We'll leave those in the link. So let's run back and see if we have a left turn. I'll be right back. We have a left turn. And I don't condone running. I just did that to make myself look cool. So now we need to find all of our other colors. So you're just gonna check each individual wire, figure out where they go, notate that, write it down on a piece of paper or something, so when you go to put it in your plug, you'll know. Then I'm gonna explain to you on the back of the 7-way plug, without using any color code, what goes where, just to help you out. One thing that is sometimes hard to find is the ground wire. In this, like we've talked about before, this ground wire is likely gonna be the white. It is huge, so more than likely it's a ground wire, but one way you can check that is I have to pull one little strand off. Tiny little strand right there. Then you can take your hot wire and just barely touch that strand. See if it pops. No pop, nothing on the fuse. That tells me that's either not the ground wire or that this trailer does not have a chassis ground to the trailer. So I'm gonna check that out real quick. I'll get right back with you and let you know what I find. So I did find the problem. This does have a chassis ground like we suspected, because that's the way most of these are wired. We did have our ground wire, if you look at the first part of the video, connected to this side of the bolt. This is the ground bolt for the chassis ground, where it goes through this breakaway switch. It was working for a little bit, but there is corrosion on there. I moved the ground wire to the back side of the stud. Now the lights are working back fine. So this would need to be addressed. This bolt's gonna need to be taken out, likely replaced, clean the rust around it, and just check that eyelet on the back side that's got a good, make sure it has a good chassis ground. So now I can show you what I was gonna show you. One way to find the ground wire, make sure it's just one single strand hanging out. And an old timer taught me this. One single strand, then just take your hot feed off and you just wanna nick it, see if you get a spark. See that spark? That means that is ground. That's a direct short. It shouldn't spark that much. It's okay to maybe see a little short, like a little spark if you have a hot battery, but it shouldn't do that much. If I were to connect that straight to that, it would pop the fuse pretty quick. It would get hot pretty quick and pop the fuse, but if it does that big spark like that, that is a direct short, so that means that is our ground wire. So we can put that on our list as a ground. We only have a few more wires to narrow down, just the black, blue, and the yellow. And then we'll be able to put this thing back together. So I'm gonna test those, see where they go, then we'll show you how to put it into our plug. So with the front portion of our 7-way out, you can see all the contacts on the back. I have loosened everything. You need to get this in the right position. As you see the big notch, like the keyway in the bottom, you have a little hole at the top. This little hole at the top is your 12 o'clock position. What I like to do when I get ready to wire this is when I spin it around, and see if I can do it on camera, that keyway should be in your 6 o'clock position. I'll put my thumb in there so I can feel the way I have it clocked. So I don't have it sideways. That's 6 o'clock position. So this will be 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock. That's how I remember it. Do it however best suits you to remember it. Now this one, you can't really see it, but it is marked on here for RV wiring. It does have a color chart on here. In this instance, even though this is a utility trailer, it is going to go color for color, but in most cases it is not going to go color for color, and you're going to need to diagnose those wires to see. It may have, you know, wire that you've never seen before. Some manufacturers that are old school, they will use all black and red wire, so all the colors are pretty much the same. You have to diagnose each wire, then install it. So I'm going to show you what wire goes to what. This would be a good time to write this down, so grab your pen and paper. So with it in my thumb in the 6 o'clock position, we're going to start at the 1 o'clock position. This is your 12 volt wire coming from your tow vehicle. This is called the charge wire. It's called the 12 volt supply. Any of those. This is what sometimes charges your battery or runs a 12 volt accessory on your trailer, maybe some lights or something like that. In the 3 o'clock position, that is going to be your right turn. In the 5 o'clock position, that's going to be your trailer brakes if you have trailer brakes. In your 7 o'clock position, that is going to be your ground, the most important wire. In the 9 o'clock position, that's going to be your left turn. And in the 11 o'clock position, that's going to be your clearance lights or marker lights, depending on what you want to call them. This center post here is probably one of the most confused and probably most of the time this terminal gets hooked up incorrectly. This is for reverse and reverse only. Most utility trailers do not utilize this, but there are some that have reverse wires. For whatever reason, a lot of people will put the ground here, and the ground will work. Once you put it in reverse, it will ground everything out and bust your fuses. So if you don't have reverse lights on your trailer, this will not be used. This would only be used if you have some type of reverse lights, or if you're running some accessory for whatever reason that you only want it on in the reverse position, or if you're in a travel trailer and have reverse lights on the travel trailer. But many of the times this will not be used. So therefore on this 7-way, you're only going to use 6 wires. So 6-way cable will be fine. So just write those where those go down, and I'm going to show you a couple ways. Sometimes these wires, this is a 7-way cable, so it's heavy, it's hard to get those in, so I'm going to show you a little hack in order to get those in. So on these larger gauge wires, it is hard to get them in there and get that tightened down without making a mess, having a bunch of stragglers or crimping this down. So what I like to do is make a little snake tongue. I don't know if you can see that on there. To wind those dudes up as tight as possible. And you can do that with all of them. And I'll show you why here in a minute. And if you do have any little stragglers, try to get those included. If it's short, then you can snip it off. You just don't want them contacting the post beside it. It is pretty tight in there. I don't know if it helps you. It always helps me to stick my tongue out. I don't know if that's on camera or not. Hopefully not. Comment below if when you're doing something you have to stick your tongue out, or if you get restless leg syndrome, or maybe both. See if we're kindred spirits. So the ground wire on this will be the hardest just because it's fat. And after you get done, just go back and check. If you have a little straggler, that's common. I'll probably have some stragglers on this. I'm gonna nip them off so they don't short circuit and jump across. So doing it that way gives it a pretty tight fit. It's even on the clamp, and it doesn't offset it one side to the other. So now we're gonna go to the right turn and work our way around. That's gonna be the brown wire. One thing I forgot to mention, we're gonna move the camera up. Don't forget to put this on before you put this on. I do it all the time. You'll get this wired and think, man, I did a great job, until you say, man, I didn't do a great job and I forgot to put the cover on. You gotta take all your work apart. It'll make a sailor cuss, so don't do it. So we have all of our wires in. We went back and checked to make sure we don't have any stragglers. Just double check your wire being tight. As you notice, the yellow has been cut back. That is a reverse wire. It is not gonna be used. Now really all we have left is just put the cover on. And I will tell you, on these covers, you may want to lubricate this a little bit with some soapy water because they do get tight, and it will try to pull the cover off. I probably had this one sitting on here long enough, it's gonna get tight. I'm gonna get me a little bit of soapy water and put on that. You don't need to put much. Just put a little bit on your hand, wipe it on the cord. And like I said, just tighten your clamp down. You don't have to over tighten it. Then your set screw, just make sure it's nice and flush in there. Don't over tighten this either. You just want it to be flush. So now all that's left, plug it in, make sure everything's good on your truck, make sure your lights work. We will leave a link to this specific 7-way that we use. We do get the question, why don't we use the metal one? The metal one that's made by the same company, it still uses the same internal guts in it, and the metal one's bad about corroding, especially if you have a metal socket on the tow vehicle. So I do prefer the plastic. They do wear out just like the molded plugs, and from time to time you have to change them. So we'll leave a link to any of these products that are available that may help you install your own 7-way plug to do the maintenance. And remember, if you have an older style battery charger, use it instead of the 12-volt battery, but just be sure to put an inline fuse in there in case you accidentally cross some wires, just to protect you from a short circuit and protect you from burning any wiring up. So I hope this answers any questions, helps you to wire your 7-way. I recommend keeping one of these in your tow vehicle, or if you're on your trailer, just in case you were to drag one off going down the road. And just a few tools is all you need, and you'll know what to do. And if you wired one before, you'll already have your wiring schematic where you've identified all your wires, and just make life a little easier. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you down the road.